Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords, and today I am here with, as you can see, Meatball. she is present. She actually screwed up my first attempt at this video by knocking everything down just to climb on top of that little microwave there. But hey, that's Meatball for you. And today I'm doing a video about the first quarter report of Hasbro. I'm sure you might have seen by now that there's a lot of news about it going around, but some of these reports seem contradictory. I think the interpretations of them are not always being correctly applied, and you know that there's some people that are basically misunderstanding what the hype of the report is saying on social media, and then some people maybe who are intentionally misinterpreting. I don't know, but I'm going to get to that. Before I go on with that, though, let me point out that yesterday, that is to say Wednesday, I was on Diversity and Dragons live stream, and if you're interested in Baptism of Fire, you should probably check out that live stream, because we gave him an advanced PDF of Baptism of Fire, and he interviewed me and Chris Miller about the game. We answered a lot of questions, and there's also a lot of art that's being shown there about the book, right? Like he had the contents, right? He even mixed this pretty great kind of video trailer in promotion of the book. So, you know, which I think was a surprise to both of us. It was certainly a surprise to me. Maybe Chris knew, I don't know. But anyways, it's a great place for you to check out and find out more about Baptism of Fire. If you're looking to get it, you'll see the incredible art. You'll see that, you know, Diversity and Dragons has a good opinion of it. And as far as the book itself, well, it's still stuck at the drive-thru printers. We're hoping that it'll get moving sometime very soon, but you know, it should be out within the next week or two. Okay, so back over here to the Q1 report. And I guess the place to start, let's start right at the very top, at the macro scale, right? So Hasbro, their revenue is down 24%. That's pretty bad, right? However, a large part of that is because they divested the E1 in it, and if you didn't count that, they're only actually about 9% down, which is still bad, but it's not as bad as what 24% looks like. What I mean to say is that most of that 24% is a temporary hit. It's not an actual decline. You know, it's a cost. So that's something. And again, I'm going to put this very briefly that essentially the same thing happened this quarter as has happened last quarter and for many quarters so far, which is that basically almost nothing made money except for Magic the Gathering. Okay, Magic the Gathering and Larian, because the final result is, you know, the revenue for Wizards was very slightly up, but pretty much all of that was Magic the Gathering. Basically, it wasn't from. Well, actually, I mean, okay, Magic the Gathering had. Hang on. Magic the Gathering had a 5% increase for tabletop revenue, right? But, so this is how we know. There's only two products, really, that Wizards of the Coast does, right? It's Magic and D&D. And Magic had a 5% rise, but Wizards of the Coast, they're down overall almost 5%. So what does that mean? In the first place, there are some people that were saying, oh, you know, Cynthia Williams obviously wasn't fired, or Cynthia Williams didn't quit because of bad sales. That's nonsense. In the first place, this is bad. Like, what their situation right now is bad. There are some people that say, oh, no, Hasbro has done much better than we thought. Okay, yeah, you're right. They haven't spiraled worse than they were in the last quarter. They're doing slightly less worse than they were doing in the last quarter, but they're still doing very badly. You know, that's still a problem. Second, in Wizards of the Coast, yes, Magic the Gathering made money, but obviously Wizards lost so much money that it didn't manage to make up for, or rather that Magic didn't manage to make up for it in terms of revenue. So that's a huge problem for them. You know, Wizards of the Coast revenue is down almost 5%, but Magic is up about 5%, which means that entire difference is because of D&D going down. Now, in spite of all of this, you still have a kind of salvation going on account of where was that? On account of the ongoing income, it was another 300 million or so, I think, that they. Where did I see that? I think I might not have put it on this phone here. Oh no, there we are. The digital gaming revenue, right? The digital gaming revenue was 316 million. Okay, and that is basically Baldur's Gate 3, Monopoly Go, maybe. I don't know how much of all these are. It's Wizards of the Coast digital gaming. So if it's other, I don't know if Monopoly Go is a different company, but so that is still what is carrying Hasbro, you know, and what's carrying, first of all, Wizards of the Coast, and then also is carrying Hasbro. And, you know, that's a problem, because that's a temporary benefit, you know, like Larian Studios is gone now, and Baldur's Gate 3 will continue to do well for some time, and that is something that's you know, obviously that's good, but it's not a permanent staple, right? It's not something that's going to be maintained indefinitely, and inevitably there will be a decline. Now, it's a hugely popular, so I'm not saying it's bad, right? What I'm saying is the core products that are actually Wizards, not the licensed stuff, are all doing badly. And as for Cynthia Williams, here the people have to remember that when Cynthia Williams came in, Magic was already doing great, or doing well, right? What she came in on was this promise that she would turn D&D into as much of a success as Magic. That was her own promise to Hasbro, to Wizards, to everybody, that she would turn Dungeons & Dragons into a $1 billion product, the same way Magic is a $1 billion product. And she has failed completely at that. And so that is why she's in. And D&D sales are clearly doing extremely poorly, you know, at this point. So it is completely in following that she has quit because of this. Because she didn't come in 2 years ago and said, well, I promise that 2 years from now, this company is going to be doing slightly worse than it was before, and a lot worse if you don't count the video game that we licensed, right? That's not what she promised. She promised that in, you know, within a few years, D&D would be a $1 billion product, that they would be having movies and video games and merchandising and a virtual tabletop. They would be selling microtransactions, and none of that is on track. None of that is coming to pass the way that they were supposed to. Some of it might still come to pass. Some of it tried to come to pass, the movie. Yeah, there was a D&D movie, but it was very clear that there is not going to be a D&D cinematic universe or something like that. Nobody wants that, okay? That's just a money pit now. So there was a video game, Baldur's Gate 3. That is the one great success that has happened. It was a success that predates Cynthia Williams. It's a success that was going to happen regardless. So, you know, she can't really get the credit for that. The virtual tabletop is way behind. It's not fully developed. It's not coming out when it's supposed to come out, to the point, which is this is really embarrassing. I don't know how much someone like Chris Cox would care, or how much the board of Hasbro would care, because they don't understand the context of this, or they don't value the product, let's say. You know, they don't put an inherent value on the history of D&D. But the fact is that the 50th anniversary of D&D, the stuff that they were going to do for it is not going to be done on the 50th anniversary, right? It's had to spill over to the 51st year, because that's how far behind track they are. You know, they can't get the books out on the 50th anniversary because the VTT is delayed, because of all kinds of other stuff, right? There's a general incompetence inside Wizards that is astounding. So this is not, because some people said, oh, this shows that they're on the path to recovery. No, this is not a path to recovery. This is that one of the big things that benefited them, aside from Baldur's Gate 3, is that they have applied $750 million in cuts, right? And that cuts are very, very useful, actually, except that if they're done badly and end up damaging the ability of your company to do the thing it's supposed to do, and that might be the case here, right? But when you do cuts, the thing about cuts is that if it's a permanent reduction in cost, then that means the profit can go up, right? Or the loss becomes less bad. In this case, they had to cut, because imagine if they hadn't cut, they'd be another $750 million worse off now than they are now. So it makes sense, because apparently they're incapable of making a product that'll sell that amount of money. So, the other option is cut off as much of the fat as you can. So that's basically where they're at. That's what's happening here. And I don't know what else to say about this, except that I think that it shows that there's still, that D&D is completely lost, even inside Wizards, And I'm going to be very curious to find out who is going to be Cynthia Williams' replacement, and whether they're going to try to change tactics, whether they're going to try to move into a different direction, or if they're just going to keep doing the same thing that they were doing before. I'm curious to find out how that's going to turn out. So I guess that's everything for today. Please remember, if you like this video, to hit the like button, to share it everywhere that people are going to find it interesting. And also to check out my products. If you want to support me, you can do a super thanks, or you can do a Patreon, or you can buy my stuff, and my stuff is great. Like Star Adventure, which is a small but complete space opera sci-fi OSR RPG for just $9.99, or the Old School Companion, which is full of material to make your OSR game more medieval authentic, including magic of medieval grimoires, advanced critical hit tables, rules on aristocrats and on culture and on trade, stuff about medieval authentic elves and monsters and cursed items, all kinds of things that are all based on actual medieval sources. Or Heroes and Villains of the Silk Road, which is a source book for Sword and Caravan that details the biographies and stats of all the major characters, the major heroes of the Third Crusade, the Fifth Crusade, the invasion of Genghis Khan, all of those guys from all those periods. Plus it has the assassin class for Lion and Dragon, and some interesting Song Dynasty weapons. So check all those out, or all my other products, including the Pundit Files in the Red Room. You can only get them at the Red Room store. The link for all of these are in the description below. The latest issue of the Pundit Files is about jousting. It's actually the biggest issue yet, because it's a collaboration with the Mad Hermit, who I put in the section on the history of jousts and how jousts were performed, and mechanics for making jousts into a kind of duel system. Duel, right? Not duel as in two, but duel as in I'm going to fight you system in the OSR. And then the Mad Hermit, who apparently he's from Montana. I guess everyone in Montana has this skill, but he has a mad knowledge about horses, and he's put in the actual somewhat bigger section of the book is his guide to horses and how to make horses more realistic, more interesting, and more important in your games, in your D&D games. And certainly, definitely in medieval fantasy and real authentic medieval fantasy, horses are a really big deal. And this is great because it's got random tables for horses' qualities, attributes, traits, problems, etc. It's got all kinds of information about what the different types of horses are. I've never seen a product for the OSR that goes into so much detail about how to, and have so many good options that you can pick and choose which ones you want to use. It's not like you have to. He doesn't invent like this complex point buy system or something like that. No, he gives you a bunch of options. You can you can decide what characteristics it has and how to rate it and whatever. And it shows you how to make a player character's horse have its own, special qualities and personality. And I think that's really cool. So that's why I said, when he asked me if he could do that, I said, yeah, absolutely, And so here it is. It's the biggest Pundit Files yet at 29 pages. It's even bigger than the Invisible College 1930s campaign, which was the issue before, which was 22 pages. You can, or 24, I forget. But anyways, you can get that one or this one from the Red Room, and each of these only costs $3.50. Okay, that's a great deal. It's just about $3.50. What do you say, Meatball? Do you have $3.50? Or did the Loch Ness Monster take it from you? Okay. I guess that's everything for today. Currently smoking. This is a Maestro de Paya Rhodesian. And that's Argento Roots.